very excited about this interview, joined here by Richard down in Australia. So, Richard, I'll tell you what, before we get started, do you want to just give a quick 2-3 minute background on you and what your current kind of investment space is, so people understand why I'm talking to you?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Richard Jarra. I was born in America, moved to Australia, Australian parents. For the last 40 years, I've been involved in a number of industries, marketing, PR, energy selling energy to customers. Had a big company doing that. Investment banking. I started a number of businesses myself as a angel investor, as an investor, seed investor, taken a number of these companies public and sold them off. I've done a lot of different deals around the world, get the rights from different companies, rights to things from overseas, and brought them back to Australia, raised capital, and then sold them off. So been a range of different things. Currently, I'm partners in an investment bank, or a boutique investment bank. So we have a number of projects that we select and handle, not just in Australia, but around the world. We have clients around the world that that have been utilizing our extensive network of contacts. Where one of the key things that we've sort of pride ourselves on is that we know a lot of people around the world and able to connect with different people around the world on different deals. So there's a lot of opportunity there. So that's sort of in a sort of encapsulating a quick.
Yeah, and look, that's really your wealth of connections is kind of the key reason that I was keen to get you on video, because I think what it enables you to have is exposure to a lot of different areas. And I know kind of what seems to be from our conversations over the last year or so, what seems to be your focus is kind of around relatively early stage getting into businesses, which potentially comes with very big rewards when you get it right.
Correct.
But also has some challenges. But just starting off kind of on a more general kind of trends that you're seeing from maybe the last 10 years and looking forward to the next 10 years, what are some of the trends you're seeing? And bear in mind, like thinking, if I'm an investor watching this, wondering sort of where best to allocate my resources, what are some of the things you're seeing?
Well, I can actually break it down into 6 areas if I can. I mean, going back 40 years, I mean, some of the industries that were big in 40 years ago no longer exist. Yeah. And I think the last 10 years have seen enormous changes. And I think fairly reasonably safe to predict that over the next 10 years, some of the corporate leaders and some of the big companies won't exist anymore.
Yeah. Or
they'll be merged with other people. As you know, Google started from nothing to become a very large company virtually, I want to say almost not overnight, but it didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. I remember when the internet first started.
Yeah.
And seeing the changes since the year 2000 and seeing the dot-com bust. So I've got 6 areas that I can see that are gonna, if you've got for investors,
mm-hmm.
that I think that you should look at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's areas that we're looking at, and they're very exciting. Now, this 6 is not exclusive. There's obviously other areas, but these are the ones that really have caught our attention, and I'll just run through them if I can.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just go through them one at a time. The first area I think is in waste management, recycling. Mm-hmm. We're looking at some unbelievable opportunities. And so just to put it in a nutshell, look at that area. The whole thing of recycling, landfill is finished. What you're going to see now is that household waste is going to be treated as effectively like carbon. It's effectively carbon-based. When you break it down, it all comes down to carbon.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at some very interesting technology from a number of different areas, from Japan, from the USA, that turns all waste, all recycling waste, dirty nappies, plastic bottles, you name it, sludge, household waste, factory waste, everything. Just convert it all and break it down into effectively carbon.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, you can get a lot of energy. We can create diesel fuel and jet fuel.
Okay.
So there's one of the exciting technologies. I think there's a lot of opportunity in that area. So all of the things you see today in terms of recycling, forget about it. It's all coming into that area, and there's some things out of Japan, USA, and others. So there's that one. The second area I'd look at is artificial intelligence. Now, I know that word's been bandied around a lot. People, when they've got a bit of software, just add artificial intelligence to it and think they can attract investors. But look, there really is some very exciting things. With 5G, that's going to start rolling out in that very, very massive broadband that it allows, the Internet of Things, everything's going to be connected to everything. And I mean everything, milk bottles, everything in your refrigerator, you name it. And look, there's things that we really haven't even thought about the sort of things that it can impact and ideas. So I think if you're going to look at opportunities to invest, look at things or companies, new startups that are focused on what they call Internet of Things. And there's some really exciting things there. And I think from Australia point of view, I'll just sort of throw in Australia because that's where I am. Australia's like other countries, but particularly Australia, we've got some amazing companies coming up with some incredible ideas. Yeah. I mean, I'll just throw this one thing out that, that Wi-Fi that everybody uses around the world was actually invented in Australia. And that's an Australian invention. So there's a lot of things that have impacted the world that were founded in Australia. So I thought I'd say that. Sort of leaning on from AI, and one particular area which we're looking at, and we've got some interest in, we've got some investing, and we've introduced some clients, is what is known as AI search, or artificial intelligence search. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make a bit of a bold claim, but Google, as you know it today, will no longer exist. And it doesn't really exist today. So the whole thing of when you type in Google and you search, and it comes back with a page and it just gives you different links, that's all gone. That's old technology. They've got new now artificial intelligence that will search, that can, there's not enough time to explain, but it will look for, find opportunities, find deals, a whole range of things. And then you get into things what they call dynamic pricing. Mm-hmm. Now, we've invested in a company that's got a patent on dynamic pricing. And for those who don't understand what dynamic pricing means, like when you say book Uber taxi to go from point A to point B, and it comes back to say it's $20. Well, if it's raining and there's a lot of demand, that same distance could be $50. So that's called dynamic pricing, and hotels are very big on that.
Yep.
So that's something that you're going to see a lot of innovation in that area that'll affect everything. It could lawyers, doctors, everybody. So if a lawyer, say, is too busy and you need him, well, his price will go up. So if you've got a lawyer and he's got some free time, he could bring his price down. So this is where you call dynamic pricing. So there's a whole range of areas that will affect, and even including maybe a restaurant. Maybe they're quiet tonight. Come on down. Instead of the normal price being $25, it's $18. This is where dynamic pricing comes in. Right. The fourth area, and this is something that we've had a lot of experience over many years. My brother and I, and my late father, before he passed away, we did a lot of tourism marketing. Mm-hmm. And we were heavily involved. Going back, the Chinese government was our first client. One of our early clients in promoting tourism. I think I've seen tourism shift over the years, and I see the next 10 years, there's a lot of new companies starting, and there's a lot of ideas in the tourism space. And I'd like to call it experience tourism, experience holidays. Yep. Things are where people are looking for something a bit different than just traditional hotel, take a tour bus. There's a lot of different ideas on that. So I think that kind of thing packaged with the kind of dynamic pricing, packaged with together, working together,
Yeah.
I think you'll see that tourism will become a big industry over the next 10 years. The other one is anything that's really disrupting, a disruptive technology. I mean, that's a fairly standard one. Uber is a disruptor. Uber was a disruptor to the taxi industry. So we're looking at companies that are disrupting traditional industries, and there's still a lot of industries that can be disrupted.
Sure.
And I think that's going to be the trend. It's, you know, nothing is set in stone. And I mean, even if you look at this recent coronavirus, where there's a challenge for members of parliament to even sit together, and they're even talking about maybe parliament online, so forth. So that's a disruption. So potentially you could have new technologies where people could vote on something and they do it online. We've invested in a company that's doing with, in terms of voting, they're working with the South African Electoral Commission because they have, there's an issue to do with integrity in voting, and you know, there's a lot of elections. So there's a big opportunity in elections, and you wouldn't think about it, but it is. And I think definitely the United States could definitely use some innovation in that area. If we all know the electoral process with the Iowa caucuses, I mean, I don't understand America with all of its intelligence and might can't run an election and they can't even get it right. But the point I'm making is that over the next 10 years, I think you're going to see a lot of innovation in that area. And I'll finish on the last one. The other area is, I think, food technology. Now, we've invested in a company which is in the mushroom biotechnology space. We've created a non-meat burger, and we've developed some non-meat patties for a very large hamburger outlet in the USA, and we've signed it. So that whole area of food technology, people are starting to think about what they're eating. There's a lot of disruption in that area. There's a lot of opportunity in that area. As we know, Beyond Meat's the sort of, in one sense, a pioneer of non-meat, but there's a lot of other alternatives. Yeah. And so I think, for instance, in aquaculture, there's a company that we're looking at that's a startup out of Canada that can monitor cattle in real time. So the cows take this little device, it sits in its stomach, and the farmer can sit on a laptop and know where all these cows are at any one time and the health of the cows. So instead of waiting for a disease or something to get affected, he can know straight away that cow's got something wrong, we need to treat it. I mean, these are really disruptive things in the technology in that area. So I think they're the sort of the 6 areas that we see, and I'm sure there's others. The list is not exhaustive. So the next 10 years are going to be very exciting.
So from in your experience, supposing an investor sees a company that's doing something interesting in that space and they think, yeah, look, I believe in that. How do you appraise the investment opportunities? Because a company can be involved in doing cool stuff. It can be involved in cool tech. It can be a great, solve the election crisis. But there's a huge difference between having a great idea and getting it to a point where an investor can actually take their returns off the table. So what are some of the criteria that you look at? How do you judge it? And how do you advise other investors to, what are some sort of key things that they can look for?
That's a very, very good question. I think our experience over the last 40 years, the things that have seen us through are very, when I first started, I had a mentor, the former agent for Gene Wilder, the actor. Mm-hmm. You know, we all know Gene Wilder from the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, what it's called. And he said to me, to deal in Hollywood, deal with good people. Uh-huh. And the focus is on people. When we look at a company and we assess it, we really focus on the individual. So I think the 3 things to look at is people. The second thing to look at is people. The third thing is look at people. You can have a great idea. There's a lot of great ideas out there, very exciting, but we think that's great. but we look at the person. And that's the thing that's really set us through. So in other words, you could have a great idea, but if the individual behind it, you're not, if you don't feel right or whatever, we say no. And generally it ends up being a disaster for one reason or another.
Right.
The second thing is that if the idea is only 50%, but if the guy or the girl is good, we'll back it because they're going to make it happen. They're going to turn that sort of 50-50 idea at least into some kind of success. So I know that's probably a very general overview, but that's how we approach things. We approach things on the person. We look at the individual. We make an assessment about that individual.
Yeah.
And generally the things that have, the winners that we've seen over the years are the ones where right from day one, we first met them, we just had this good feeling that they were good. When we've seen ideas that were unbelievable ideas, I mean, you almost couldn't walk away from it. And we got involved, but the person behind it wasn't quite focused, or it ended up in disaster, and they ran it into the ground. Yeah. So that's talking to, as if I was talking to, as an investor, talking to another investor.
Yeah.
That's our criteria.
So look, a lot of that comes from experience, and you've been doing this a long time. You've had a lot of visibility.
It's experience, yeah.
Yeah. So what about for someone that doesn't have that experience? I mean, you just touched on something there. You said, if they don't have the focus, and often this is a perpetual problem with entrepreneurs. They see new shiny things everywhere. So I agree. Focus is definitely one key thing. What are some of the other warning signs that somebody could look for when they're talking to a founder that you would spot intuitively, but perhaps?
So what was the warning signs, did you say?
So what would be some of the warning signs that you would spot intuitively, because you've had that experience, but that somebody with less experience should be specifically looking for? So you already mentioned the lack of focus. What would be the other ones?
Okay, there's two things I would say. If a person's a new entrepreneur in something new, get a mentor, get somebody with a lot of experience and listen to them and have them there. Now, they're not necessarily always right, but I would suggest if you're going to invest in a company, and not necessarily the person is young, but if they're new to the idea, make sure that before you put the money in, there's somebody sitting alongside them that has experience in the area. Now, they don't necessarily be right or wrong, but that's always a good sign. I think the key we look for is, this is an expression, but every person I meet is a clean white sheet of paper. That's how I view when I meet somebody new. And so I listen very carefully. I talk a lot, but I also listen. And I listen very carefully, and I listen to their speech, and I listen to the way they talk. The things I'm looking for are the change in voice and tone, and being honesty. And I mean, honesty can be, it's a difficult thing in terms of not lie detector, but you're trying to not trip them up, but you're looking for making sure that they're speaking frankly to you. When you ask a direct question, they give you a direct answer. I often say to new young businesses that I'm introducing to investors, what I say to them is very critical. I say, now listen, I'm going to introduce you to this person. They've got money. They like your idea. They're very keen to meet you. I say, be honest, be direct. Even if the information you think is negative, it's better for you to be honest and say, look, I don't know the answer to that question, or I'm glad you asked me that question. That's one of the problems we haven't sorted out yet. Because a lot of times, new people with new ideas just want thinking the person just wants to hear everything positive. Yeah. I often say to them, be honest and say the negative. And even if you might say something like, you know what, that's the problem with this company, we haven't figured that out. It's better you say that, and then the investor will go, okay, well, I'll give you more money to figure it out. So it's real about honesty, being direct, being, and that's the thing I look for. And if I am dealing with somebody new, and then I find out that what they told me was not the truth, I end it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but now, unless it was a really genuinely honest mistake, I don't give them a second chance.
Yeah.
And so that's my business philosophy in terms of it. So that's how I would advise potential investors. I think then that same also goes for if people are listening to this who are entrepreneurs. Be direct, be honest. That's the best policy in the end. And if you lack a certain, I know entrepreneurs like to feel like they can do anything, but there's one thing there was something that was said to me a long, long time ago. Focus on the things that you are that you are exceptional at as an entrepreneur. If you're exceptional at whatever it is, and just focus on that area. And if you're bad on numbers, or you're bad on strategy, or you're bad on marketing, let somebody else do it.
Yeah.
And get the best to do it. Don't think that you can do everything. And I think that's my advice. Yeah. So that's why I look for that. I don't like it when an entrepreneur says, I can do everything. I can do marketing, I can do accounting, I can do all of that. And I say, well, not really. Tell me the things you're exceptional at. And so if I'm going to invest in you, I want you to focus on what you're exceptional. Even though you tell me you can do the numbers, I'm going to get somebody in, or you should get somebody in who can support you that way.
So I think
that's the answer.
That gives a very good blueprint for investors. So if you see a company with a potentially exciting idea or exciting technology, start asking the entrepreneur about what they're not good at and how how they're mitigating that. Who have they got in to help them? If they're good at everything, probably time to walk away. But if they're honest enough to say, look, yeah, numbers aren't my strong suit, but I've got this fantastic CFO and whatever. That's a good indication. Very good, awesome. So, look, I'm conscious of time as well, but I think one thing I'd like to end with is, what's one mistake that you see a lot of investors making? And because I'm sure you go into a lot of deals with other investors. So what's one mistake that you see coming up? And also, if you had to give yourself advice 20 years ago, as an investor, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, I would give myself the advice 20 years ago that I'm going to give my advice now to investors. Look, what I would have done 20 years ago would have been to probably focus on a couple of really key areas that I'm really good at, rather than being the entrepreneur that I am and I tried a whole lot of different things. That's the mistake. And I say the mistake, but I think looking back 20 years ago, I would have focused on one or two areas and I would have just killed it. But I didn't. What I did was I focused on this, and then I focused on that, and then I said, oh, there's a company over here, that's great. And then I spread myself too thin. So that's the thing. So now I'm focused on very carefully what we're doing. These are the areas that we're focused on, and the way we operate. So I would say to an investor, look, it's harder to say, it's actually hard to say no. And I think you've got to, there's a lesson in, if I give the lesson, it's learn how to say no. Because when you've got money, and people know you've got money, they hit you with all these ideas. And, some of them are very attractive. And I mean, even physically, like the girl behind it's attractive and you like her, or man, or whatever, it can be very, what's the right word? It can be very, can get very, heady. You make these decisions that you look back and think, why the hell did I put money into that company? So I think you've got to learn to say no. There is a successful venture capital firm that I studied in the USA. And why were they so successful? Why were they outperforming all the other venture capitalists? And there was a very good talk by the founder, and I won't mention names. And he said that our philosophy is we learn to say no more than we learn to say yes. We get a lot of opportunities, and some of the ones we've said no to actually ended up becoming quite successful. And I think that's a really hard, it's an easy thing to say, but actually it's really hard. So you focus on it, say no, and then when you do say yes, it's 100%. And you will know when you'll say yes, rather than just spreading yourself across a whole range of industries, hoping that you're spreading the risk and hoping that all of them are all going to work. They won't all work.
Yeah.
And
That's
you
good
get
advice.
distracted and you
I think
waste your time.
one of the things that we're very conscious of, and I think Richard Branson actually said, look, opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming along.
Correct.
And it's very
Correct.
easy to think that this is the opportunity, but there's so many out.
Correct.
Richard,
Correct.
it's been a
Thank you.
pleasure as always. Always a joy to chat with you. We should do it more often. Yeah, thanks for sharing that wisdom. There's some great insights there. 6 really good key areas for people to look at, and some good tips to not get burnt on the way. So
Correct.
that, and we'll chat again soon.
Well, thank you, Callum, and congratulations on all your success.
Thanks.